everyone. Welcome back to the C Morning Show right here on C Today. Now, before we discuss something about love deeper, I would like to know, Sarah, I know that your heart is pounding already.
Look at my hands right now. I'm like, what are you going to ask me, Rahma?
Look, Sarah, we know that love is a general language.
Yes.
Right? So it's the key of everything in this life. But we want to know more about self-love.
Wow.
So what is self-love in your opinion?
Well, of course, love, the word itself, is very powerful.
Yes.
And self-love is said to be the most powerful love. Before we are able or should be able to love others, we should love ourselves first. And I think it's more of acceptance of who we are and knowing ourselves and probably knowing the boundaries and making ourselves happy first. Like same thing as saving ourselves first before saving others, loving ourselves first before loving others. But what about you, Rahma?
Oh, for me, again, it's similar to you, acceptance, and also I can do anything that I want, whenever I want, to make me happy. Because I believe that if I am happy, my surroundings will be happy as well.
Wow, radiating happiness
I know.
to everyone.
Okay. Now, self-love means fully accepting yourself, treating yourself kindly and also respectfully, and also nurturing your growth and also well-being. So this is about how you treat yourself and also your thoughts and feelings towards yourself.
Yes, and today we'll explore why self-love is essential in life with self-love coach Muara Makarim, who is with us in the studio this morning. Good morning, Mbak Muara. Please come up here on the sofa. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Have a good see, Muara.
Thank you.
We're going to talk more about self-love. I am so excited about this.
With the coach itself. And self-love, loving yourself. It sounds so powerful. People talk about it so much nowadays. But what is actually self-love from the coach itself now?
Okay. This is the most common question, right? Like people, like you said, like everyone keeps saying like self-love, you have to love yourself, but that's actually the reason why that becomes my niche in coaching, and I always bring that up because I realize not many people really understand the meaning behind it. It's actually, it sounds simple in theory, but not in practice. But in theory, the definition is finding joy within you. So your happiness, your joy in life doesn't depend on other people or situations.
Yes.
You have to find that peace within you.
Okay, so we need
Sounds
to
simple,
have
but
peace.
yes.
Find peace.
Find joy. Whatever
Find
that
joy.
brings you joy, it has to come from inside, not from other people, not from your environment.
That means you have to be able to understand yourself first.
Exactly, yeah.
And understanding ourselves, I mean, growing up, we are social creatures. We are formed by things surrounding us.
Yeah.
How can we understand ourselves? But growing up, we have to listen to others. We have sometimes we have to answer and fulfill the expectations of our surroundings.
That's the biggest challenge
There you
in
go.
loving ourselves. That is exactly the problem. Well, but that's life, right?
Yes,
if
that's
we
life.
don't face challenges, we're not gonna grow. But that's the main issue why people have a hard time to love themselves, because growing up, we were conditioned by our caregivers, by our friends in school, our teachers in school, environment, society. And some parents, some caregivers like to condition their kids like, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough.
Without them even realizing it.
Yes. Society does the same thing, right? Like if you don't look like this, you're not good enough. If you don't do this, you're not good enough. That becomes the challenge. That's why it's not always bad things, because all these challenges make you grow and make you dig deeper what is important for you. So we actually need that, but we really need to be aware of that. We really have to keep asking ourselves, what would I do if I love myself?
Right.
That will always bring us back to our core inner self-love.
Okay, now before we dig in or even deeper
Yeah.
about self-love, I want to know, take us back a little. Why self-love coach? Why to be a coach of self-love?
Because
What's the
I
story?
realized, yeah, so I mean, if you look around in your life or people around you, the one who are struggling are the one who don't know themselves enough.
Okay.
Whether it's about your job, like I don't know what I do, I don't know about my passion, whether it's about relationship, why I don't have a husband yet or a wife yet, why am I not married yet, why am I not happy in this relationship, whether it's about relationship with parents, why am I not really close with my parents and stuff. It's all coming back to ourselves. Like, if we don't love ourselves enough, we wouldn't be able to understand what kind of people that are good for us, what kind of job that are good for us, what kind of relationship we need for us. So it's basically the core of everything in our life. If we don't love ourselves deep enough, we're not going to be able to navigate our life.
Right.
We will be dragged into this pattern that just makes us feel, I don't really love my life anymore.
Right.
Or I don't love my relationship, or I hate my job. It's all rooting back to because you don't know how to make yourself happy.
Okay.
Because you don't know deep enough what really, really brings you joy. That's why you keep allowing toxic job coming into your life, allowing toxic people coming into your life, or you keep getting angry at your parents, or you cannot have genuine friendships. It's because of that. You're just relying your happiness on these external factors until you realize this is actually not for me. So it all comes down how deep you know yourself, how deep you know what makes you feel happy from inside. And that's all about self-love.
Okay. So there's like two ways to find what you actually like or that you're really into it, right?
Yeah.
Because here, let me put it this way, because sometimes if you're in a job situation that you don't really like, for instance, Sarah, job A, but you're thrown into that. And of course, when you say that, if you're happy, you find joy and
Yeah.
whatever, that you can do the job extremely well. But
Yeah.
again, you're forced to do it, right? So you have to dig into it. Is that, is that considered as self-love itself? Or you have to love yourself, then you find something else, a job that you like.
I like
No,
this
do
question.
different ways.
Yes,
Do different
no.
ways, right?
I know. No, that's actually a very good point. Self-love also means you have to be able to become a better person. That's actually how you differentiate between ego and self-love. Ego is you want to be seen better. Self-love, you want to be better.
Okay.
So if you use that definition, you want to be a better person, means you have to be stretched. We are only being stretched when we are in a struggling situation.
Right.
For example, the job that we don't like. But we will learn something from that, right? We will never be able to get to live our purpose or passion if we don't find the joy in this current job. It doesn't matter, it makes you stressed out or everything, but as long as it does good for your soul, your brain, or something, you learn something, or it will lead you to a bigger purpose, then do it, because it's part of your self-love, it's self-growth.
Self-growth.
Yes.
Right.
Self-growth is self-love, because the definition of self-love is become a better person.
Right.
Yeah.
Better person. But what is the first step of us actually loving ourselves? Because you mentioned that we have to be able to find our joy, we have to find our inner peace, so we can be able to become the better person
Yeah.
going forward. But sometimes people probably who have grown up with certain traumas are probably certain ways by their caregivers, as you mentioned before. We do not realize that we are living in a toxic environment which prevents us from loving ourselves. How can we understand or know what is the first step to take?
The first step is, if you've heard of gratitude journal, that's the basic tool that I always ask my clients to do, but not writing down what you are grateful for about life, but writing down every day, what are you grateful for about yourself? So your brain is forced to be rewired to always give yourself compliments every day.
And looking within yourself.
Yes. Yeah, because sometimes we realize that those compliments, we usually unconsciously, we want that validation, that compliments from other people, not from us. And that's what's taking away our self-love. So when you write it down every day, as many as you can, which is not easy. Some people are like, I don't know what else to write. I'm already writing 3. I think that's enough. And I'm like, no, you have more on the list. When you practice doing that, you start to realize that I'm actually good. I'm actually good enough. I don't need people's compliments. I don't need people to validate how I feel because I have me who can see the good in me. Yeah.
And then how can we be able to reach out? Because sometimes if we see, sometimes we can, we try to see how people probably they need to be more happier with their life. How can we reach out? Are there a certain situation that you have to be able to, she needs self-love or he needs self-love more than others? Or is it probably like the same for everyone?
It's different for everyone because how we were raised are all different. The conditioning are different. And if we realize we need more self-love, we have to have the awareness. The basic thing that is actually very easy, the practical thing to notice is write down 5 life values. Life values, for example, like for me, my life values is number 1 is growth. So basically what is important for you in your life. Write down 5 of them and see if your current life match those values.
Okay.
If not, means you don't love yourself enough to align your values with your life.
Right.
So when you're aware of that, then you can just seek for help, professional help or mentor or anything. It can be life coach, it can be mentor, it can be psychologist, anything. But when you realize that that happens in someone else's, when you realize your friend experienced that, my suggestion is never give unsolicited advice.
Right.
Let them be in their own line. Yeah.
Okay. Still talking about self-love
Yeah.
itself. So some may say if you have this self-love and you're aware about the self-love itself, you're trying to implement it in your daily lives, people may judge you as selfish, right? So what's your intake? Any thoughts about that, being selfish?
To be honest, there are people who think that they love themselves, but apparently they're just being selfish. There are people I was like that. In the
Right.
beginning of my self-love journey, I was like that.
Right.
That's very common because when we start learning about self-love, it's kind of like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And when we see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're like excited, right? We're like, oh my God, this is how life is. And sometimes when we are in that stage, we forgot to appreciate other people's feelings around us. Yeah. So there's some truth in it. Sometimes people are being selfish when they're focusing on self-love too much. But what I always tell everyone is self-love means you do whatever makes you happy without being annoying or being mean or being rude to other people. If your definition of self-love is being rude to other people, it means you don't love yourself. It means you're being selfish.
Right.
When it
Yes.
also affects our
So we have to
negatively.
be emotionally stable as
Yes.
well, right? Now, speaking of emotionally stable, sometimes it's easy to find self-love once you're single. If you're single, right? You're not in a relationship or in a marriage situation.
Yeah.
But let's talk deeper about that. Now, self-love when you're in a marriage situation. Sometimes it's the other, our spouse can actually understand what we're going through, but some may not, right? Because it's here in Indonesia, sometimes it's a fact that we need to realize that. But how can we actually find this self-love, understand, emotionally stable, if again, we have this kind of toxic spouse, which is in the house 24/7.
Well, okay. There's 2 different things, right? If this spouse is really toxic to the point that they drain your energy 100% all the time, becomes very toxic, doesn't do you any good, I think separation is the answer, right?
Okay.
Like, you cannot spend your life with a partner who doesn't want to contribute to the goodness in the relationship, who doesn't want to seek help
Right.
for like marriage counselor or anything like that. If it's to that certain point, I advise just get a divorce. I do have some clients who are like that. Like it's just really like they don't communicate anymore. They don't love each other that deep anymore. They're not being friends anymore. They're just being roommates, basically. They just live together, raise kids together, that's it, roommates. If in that situation, I would suggest review the whole thing, review the love, review the values, review the relationship vision. If it's really hard to work on, and if both are not into that anymore, separation is always the answer. No, not always, but can be the option, right? But if it's like just normal problems in a marriage where you just like argue a lot or different opinions or different views on certain things, communication is key. I know people hear this a lot, but the meaning of communication itself is not easy. So here is try to always do two things. One, sometimes when we complain too much about our partner, we forget to give them appreciation. So I think giving appreciation every day for each other, not just us to the husband, but the husband to us as well, is key. Like just, and be very specific with your appreciation. Like, thank you for example, me to my husband, thank you for taking care of Lydia, my daughter, while I was away for a vacation with my girls. That's super specific, right? Not just saying thank you, but like, thank you for taking care of this when, like last weekend, how, when I was in Gili with my friends, right? And he does that to me too, like, oh, thank you for taking care of the house chores when you do this grocery shopping yesterday,
Okay.
right? That's number one, appreciation first. And then after you appreciate, when you think that you still have to voice out some problems, then you can say it. And when you say it, you have to say it like how it bothers you, not like how they are wrong, but how it bothers you, how that impacts you, how that impacts the marriage. So not about how they do wrong, it's about how that impacts everything,
Right.
including how you feel. And if that practice doesn't help, or if that practice means the other partner doesn't want to change and transform the relationship, because sometimes that happens. Like you ask something, you don't get it. Then the question you have to ask yourself is two things. One, is it a deal breaker if they don't change? Or two, I can tolerate this. I can just like forget about it. It's okay because I can appreciate him for something else,
Right.
right? And if it's not a deal breaker, usually you have to tell yourself that you cannot change people. Loving yourself, remember when I said loving yourself doesn't mean you have to be rude to other people? It's that one-off example. You cannot ask people to change. You just have to accept that people are not gonna meet all your needs, and that's okay, including your spouse.
And of
Yeah.
course, in a marriage or any partnership, you want your partners to be happy
Yes.
for their well-being.
Yeah.
But probably one last question. I mean, speaking of families and children, now we see the generation growing up with social media.
Yeah.
We can't stop them from, watching the media, using
Yeah.
social media with all the comments, the likes based on approvals of the public. How can we ensure that they understand self-love from a young age so they will not be affected by the toxicity of the social media and the media itself?
Raise a very confident kid. That's really extremely important in today's world.
Yeah.
Raise a confident kid means that be a parent who,
How can you make one confident but not overconfident so they will not be proud?
right. Well, first of all, there's no perfect rule in parenting, right? Because parents are humans.
True.
There's no perfect thing. But what you can do is the simple theory in conscious parenting is be the lighthouse, not the helicopter parent. Lighthouse means you are there in the middle of the sea giving guidance to all the boats around you. While helicopter is you're like following the boat, making sure the boat is getting to the shore. Yes, exactly what parents are supposed to be doing. You let them be, you let your kids voice out their opinion, do whatever they want, but guide them with your values. Guide them with the values you want them to raise with the values with. But practice to let them be. Make sure that they know what to say, how to do things, let them fail. It's okay for them to fail, to cry, to get angry, to be disappointed.
To be humans.
To be humans, yes. And then be there when they need you, but do not control, do not over-guiding them. Of course, in theory, it sounds like, okay, that's easy. And of course, in reality, like you said, some people can be growing up like overconfident. I've seen in my clients, in my early 20s clients, they're like that, like overconfident. But again, it's just how life is, right? If you are growing perfectly, you're not gonna grow.
Yes.
So yeah, so the easiest rule is just let them be, but guide them throughout the journey, but let them be.
Let them be.
Let
Yes.
them be, Sarah.
And we have to be happy with ourselves as well.
Yes.
Practice
Yes.
self-love so we can radiate the happiness and also love towards others.
Sure. Very
Thank
true.
you, Mbak Muara,
Thank you so
for
much.
your love here on
Yes.
C Morning Show.
I'm
Thank
feeling
you.
the love already.
Everyone at home can also feel the love as well. But anyways, we have to take another short break, but stay with us because after the break, we'll have more updates from Indonesia.